and thank you for joining Bruce County Public Library for this live presentation. My name is Nancy Cole, and I'm the Program Coordinator for Bruce County Public Library. Today, we welcome members from the Ontario Numismatic Association. They are here to share with us news from their organization and general information about collecting coins, tokens, paper money, medals, and other related objects. Starting in 1961, the Ontario Numismatic Association exists across Ontario and includes over 300 members. So we are so pleased to have several representatives here today from O.N.A. Before we get started, we just have a few housekeeping items. Following our introductions, our guests will begin their presentation. While listening and watching, we encourage you to submit any questions or comments here to our web form on the Bruce County Public Library website. And you should be able to see the link on our screen here, and it is in the description below. And we will address any questions following the presentation. You may wish to take this opportunity to grab a pen and paper and jot down information and resources of interest to you. And if you don't get a chance to watch live today, this presentation will be recorded and posted here on the library's YouTube channel in our special guests playlist for a limited time. And if you haven't already, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up to date with all our live presentations. We would like to remind our audience today that if you don't have a library card, we have made it super easy for you to get one. Either visit our website and click the link for a temporary card, or call your local branch to arrange a curbside registration. Our membership is free and allows access to thousands of books, videos, electronic resources like magazines, movies, numismatic magazines and books, learning tutorials, and much, much more. Following the program today, please take a moment to fill in our evaluation. Your feedback and stories help show the value of the library in our communities, and that link to the evaluation is in the description below as well. So without further ado, today we have with us a large panel today. So we have Sean Sinclair, who is the president of O.N.A. Sean will provide an overview of O.N.A. and how to get started and involved. And with him is Cassidy Stroud, the first vice president of O.N.A., and she'll be speaking with Sean. And we have the youth ambassador, Sarah Sawicki, and she's speaking about the youth program. And if you have any questions about that, she'd be happy to answer those. And then last but not least, we have Scott Douglas, and he's the past president of the O.N.A. And Scott has a short presentation about Canadian merchant tokens, which is super interesting. We got to see a preview of that the other day, and there's some really, really interesting coins in there. So welcome, everyone. We're happy to have you with us today, and we're looking forward to learning a lot more. And I know you have a lot to share with us today, so I'm going to turn it over to Sean and Cassidy to begin.
All right, thank you very much. So the O.N.A. started out in 1962 in Waterloo, Ontario, and I have a short presentation here to show everybody, pardon me. There we go. So there's the monthly, or pardon me, newsletter, which is printed every 2 months. We have educational PowerPoints available to all members and clubs. Once it's allowed again, there's also the annual convention, which is typically held in April in various cities around the country. One municipality is selected each year. And we also have the annual banquet, and there are awards shows and various educational presentations. There's also the Achievement Awards. The O.N.A. also provides supplies to the clubs to assist in their shows and events, such as very nice blue tablecloths, as well as display cases to show off any pieces that people would wish to share with the public. So what is numismatics? Numismatics is the study and collection of coins, metals, banknotes, and other items related to monetary and medallic art. This can include the scrip, which is generally a local or regional currency that was issued for an emergency when there isn't enough money to serve the public. There's also examples of this in the past have included playing card money, when they simply put values on playing cards and signed them. Examples of some current and older Canadian coins. The designs that most of us are familiar with started in 1937 under the reign of King George VI. And that includes, of course, the maple twig on the old 1 cent coins, the beaver on the 5 cent, the schooner on the 10 cent, and the caribou on the 25 cent. The 50 cent has had some form of the coat of arms on it since that time as well, although the design has been updated several times since 1937. And there's also the final coin here is our well-known silver dollar coin with the two Frenchman and native in a canoe passing by the windswept tree. It's difficult to see in the image, but you can also see the northern lights in the background. And the canoe is actually marked with the logo of the Hudson's Bay Company. Examples of some old US coins. You have the wheat cents, which is the original design issued with President Lincoln. The Indian head buffalo nickel in the top center. The mercury dime at the top right. The standing Liberty quarter is the bottom left. The walking Liberty $50 in the bottom center. And the Morgan silver dollar at the bottom right. These are all coins or designs that are no longer being issued, but they're well-known designs in US currency. So there are several possibilities where people can begin collecting. I mean, you can start with, of course, your basic pocket change. We don't have 1 cent coins anymore, but most people can start with the 5 cents and anything else that they find in change. And as you progress through the hobby, there are other possibilities. Myself, I like collecting commemorative designs, especially if it's a series of coins. This set that you see here at the moment is from Peru, and it's called The Wealth and Pride of Peru. It shows historic sites and artifacts that have been found throughout the country. In the top left, of course, is the most famous one for Peru, Machu Picchu. Top center is the the ancient city of Corral. And the information I've read regarding this is that they have not found any sort of weapons or war artifacts in that site, which is pretty unbelievable for a site that's considered the oldest historic site in the Western Hemisphere. The coin at the top right is the Tumi de Oro. It's a ritualistic knife, and I won't go into the details of that. The bottom left is the Sarcophagus of Karagia. These are sarcophagi that are found high up on cliff sites in Peru. The Chalpas de Silistani, which is the bottom center. This is, again, they're used for burial sites. So there are bodies inside those castles, if you wish to call them that. And the Estela de Raimondi, which is the bottom right, that is, my apologies, I forget what it is exactly, but it has various native languages inscribed on it. So this is just one of many series that are possible to collect from around the world. Other possibilities include collecting coins of different shapes. Here you have an Australian 50 cent at the top left, which is 12-sided. An Austrian €5 at the top center, which is 9-sided, and it's a curved polygon. Explaining the geometry of that takes more time than I think we have at the moment. You also have a bimetallic dodecagon with the 25 kuna at the top right. There are also square coins. There's an East Caribbean 2 cent at the bottom left. Then you have what is called a scalloped shape, which is the Tanzania 10 centi in the bottom center. And the bottom right, although it is circular, it's a bimetallic, well, actually one of the few circulating three-piece coins that has ever been released. This is a 20 franc from France. And this also brings up different possibilities for themes for people to collect. You can collect coins with coats of arms, such as the Australian coin, Olympic coins. I mean, there are many possibilities. One person I know in Waterloo, he collects coins that have turtles on them. So other possibilities, of course, are all the colored coins that are starting to pop up around the world. These are just 6 different colored coins that have been released from various countries around the world. Top left is part of a set that Panama issued for the 100th anniversary of the Panama Canal. The top right, or sorry, top center is a $2 piece from Australia, and it actually has almost the entire poem of In Flanders Fields inscribed in the background. The top right is another Remembrance Day themed coin from New Zealand. The bottom left is one from Papua New Guinea for the anniversary of their central bank. This is one that was made by the Royal Canadian Mint, and one of the requirements of the contract was that the colored inscription or colored logo had to be aligned to the axis of the coin. Our early colored coins from Canada were not aligned in any particular direction. They were just slapped on there whichever way they fell. The bottom center is a relatively recent coin from the Cook Islands for their 50th anniversary. Pardon me, that's Fiji. And the bottom right is from the Solomon Islands for their 40th anniversary of independence. So again, that gives you several possibilities for colored coins, and there are many others. And just various other odds and ends, trade tokens, trade dollars, medals. The top left is a medal from Hamilton for this anniversary of the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. The top center is a trade dollar from Ottawa, and it shows the Byward Markets building. Trade dollars are typically issued by a municipality and are only legal tender for a very short period of time. Usually within a year or two, they expire. The top right is another trade dollar, this one from Hanover, which is more in your region. The bottom left is another token, this one from the Netherlands for the anniversary of the Rabobank, or the formation of the Rabobank, pardon me, one of their banking institutions. The bottom center is a gaming token from one of the casinos in Las Vegas, Caesar's Palace. And the bottom right is part of a series of tokens that was issued in the 70s with all of the prime ministers on it. This one happens to show Sir Robert Borden, which is also the name of the high school that I attended in Ottawa. One of the last pieces I would like to show for coins is this set from the United Kingdom. This is their current circulating series of coins, which started in 2008. And the coins essentially create a puzzle which creates the full image of the Royal Arms. Now, of course, you also have banknotes. This is Canada's last $1 bill, which was produced from 1973 until 1987, when it was replaced by our well-known loonie. The reverse design at the bottom shows logging traffic on the Ottawa River behind Parliament Hill. Other possibilities include foreign notes. This is one from Argentina, which celebrates the 50th anniversary, I believe, of the death of Eva Peron, or Evita. This is a 50 franc coin from France, which I believe honors a children's story. But what I just like the color of it. I mean, that's just such a vibrant blue. Here's a more recent coin, or pardon me, banknote from Kazakhstan, which shows quite a variety of colors on it. Pardon me. And this is a 10 Rand note from South Africa with the portrait of Nelson Mandela, who was one of their more well-known presidents and heroes in modern times. Here is an 80 baht coin from Thailand issued for the 80th birthday of Queen Sirikrit, if I pronounced that correctly. And finally, one of the most famous banknotes ever made, the $100 trillion note from Zimbabwe, which is the highest value ever printed on a banknote. They were going through a time of rampant inflation, and the values on the banknotes just kept increasing. So this is the highest denomination note that has ever been printed, and despite the fact that 100 trillion Zimbabwe dollars may only be a couple of bucks, these notes typically go well over $100. And that is the end of what I have to say. Just get back over to the meeting.
Thank you, Sean. I'm Cassidy, and I am the first vice president of the O.N.A, and I like to work with a lot of the youth as well. What made me get into coin collecting? I started as a child and was interested in a lot of different foreign coins and Canadian coins, and I would collect them and I would put them in my binder. You know, after a few years, I stopped thinking about it, which happens to a lot of us. And then about 10 years ago, I started thinking about my coins again and banknotes and some of the other items. And I decided I'm going to seek out the local club. So what I did was I found an ad in the newspaper or online, and I went out and visited my local club, and I joined right away, and I've been hooked ever since. The hobby has been predominantly men over the past few decades, but more recently we've been seeing a lot more ladies joining the clubs, and it's pretty exciting to see more women in the hobby as well. I personally now like to collect a lot of European banknotes pre-World War II and a lot of old Canadian banknotes. So that's what I like to collect, and I think that's a lot of fun to do. And I like to get the youth involved as well. So I'm also the youth coordinator for the RCNA, which is our national club in Canada. And I organize and I help with the youth program and trying to get people under 18 involved. So what do we do with our youth right now? When we have shows across the province, often we will have a youth table. I call it the youth booth. And what we do, and Sarah is one of our volunteers, and what we do is we have all donated items for people under 18. People have donated these like coins and banknotes and supplies, and then we offer them to those who are under 18 to come by the show, and we pick out what you like, and usually for a few dollars you can pick up a whole bag full of goodies to supplement your coin collecting. We also have, now this is of course when we're allowed to meet again, we have the youth booth, but also we have an auction that happens. We have a few of the auctions going on throughout the year in normal circumstances. And what we do is if you're under 18, you can register for the auction, and we give you, say, $500 in play money. And then you can bid on auction items, all different coins and coin sets and banknotes and all kinds of fun things. And then you get whatever you win, you get to take home, and it's of no cost to you. Plus, we also have some other youth activities that you can get involved with. And we're always looking for volunteers. We have a Facebook page. We have a newsletter. So if you become a member, for example, membership for adults, to get a digital copy of your membership of the newsletter, it's only $15 a year. and you get all kinds of perks to becoming a member of the O.N.A. Also, if you are a junior, so under 18, then you would only pay $5 a year to be a member. $5. It's great. The next year, your second year in, we have a scholarship program, and that way you get the second year for free if you continue to be a member. And then it's $5 again until you're 18, and then adults are $15 a year. So we highly encourage you to check us out and see if you'd like to become a member and take part in all the perks that we have to offer. We're also looking for donations. If anyone out there has any donations they'd like to contribute to the youth program, they can always get in touch with us and go from there. Okay, so I'd like to turn it over to Sarah now, and she can tell us about her experience with coin collecting. Unmute. I think you're still muted. Scott, I think, or Sean, I think Sarah is still muted.
I'm not sure what's happening there.
Okay, Scott, why don't you start on with your presentation, and we'll circle back to Sarah if we're able.
Okay.
I'm not sure what's happening there.
All right, we'll figure it out. Hello, everybody. My name is Scott Douglas. And everybody hear me okay? Yes? I've been involved in coin collecting for all my life, pretty much, since I was about 6 or 7 years old. I had a paper route back in the day when money was really money, being silver and not just pieces of metal, but they're making them more interesting today. I stopped for a while in my teens and did the usual things that we do in life, and came back to this hobby about 35 years ago. Went to collecting coins, which are the thing you generally start with, Canadian or American or foreign coins, as Sean was showing us. It's a wonderful thing about numismatics. There's many different aspects of this hobby that can take your fancy. And got involved later on in tokens, Canadian tokens and Canadian medals. My main reason being they're very historical, and they give you a lot of stories that you can go back on and make them more interesting than necessarily just a piece of metal. So I'll start my presentation here, I hope. Let me go there. And are we there? Are we there?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So merchant token use in rural Ontario. Tokens were created sometime in Canada between the 1890s and used into about the 1920s. The main reason being that there was a shortage of small coins, small change in rural villages and towns. Not so much in the city, but mostly in the towns. The tokens usually had the merchant's name and town on them, and the reverse side shows what they would be worth. They were generally from 1 cent on up to $1, just like our coinage would be. There was a lot of advantages to this for everyone involved, since generally the farmers in the near the towns would come into the general store, the dry goods store, to buy the merchandise that they needed, and they would bring eggs and butter and things like that from the farm to use on a barter system. The merchant would take, as for instance, a dozen eggs. If a farmer's wife brought in a dozen eggs, she could get 12 cents for them if she wanted tokens in return, 12.5 cents if she insisted on cash. There wasn't a lot of cash around. The merchant didn't want to give it out, and the farmer's wives, they of course couldn't take it in. So the store owner knew that the farmer's wife would come back with the tokens and spend them in his store. This is generally what a store looked like. That's not a great picture, but that was about 1900. Oftentimes they looked a bit like a cross between Home Hardware and Bulk Barn. A lot of their merchandise, you can see at ground level in the different boxes, was in bulk. The merchant would get them in off the train, filled. They were usually in barrels, and then they would sort the barrels out and package the items in smaller packages for their customers. There's another side there. At the top, you've got some nice woolen socks and fabric for the women to use for the sewing their clothing and everything else. So here we have a group of merchant tokens. This is from Mount Forest, Ontario, and you see the different denominations from $1 down to 1 cent. At the bottom right, there is a canceled token, and this one says void. When the merchant either went out of business or retired, they didn't want these tokens out there because they basically were like cash in their hand, could demand payment for them. You see the due bills. We call them due bills because it means it's the amount of money due. Come in different shapes and sizes and denominations. We have octagonal at the top left, square, round, and scalloped at the bottom. Here are some other ones that show you 1 cent, 5 cent, different places: West Huntington, Elora, Ontario, Campbell stores. At the bottom right, we have an incuse, what we call incuse. It's just lettering on it for the commercial hotel. This was good for 5 cents at the bar, and William Saunders was the proprietor. Many things at this period of time, between 1895 and 1905, were 5 cents, much like the dollar store. 5 cents bought you a cigar, it bought you a drink. A loaf of bread was 4 cents. It was a common denomination that was in use at that time. Here's tokens that are good for something other than buying groceries. You have, since a lot of horse travel was still being used, horse and buggy as well as horses, if you checked into the Dominion Hotel in Grand Valley, Ontario, you might want to buy hay for your 2 horses. There's a token that you would get inside the hotel, would be offered to you along with your accommodation, and you would take that out to the stable person who would then feed your horse. On the top right, you see David Shop's token. He was a bicycle repairer. He also sold Cleveland bicycles, and if you came to him and had this token, he would give you $1 off on a bicycle. Bicycles in those days were very expensive. About 1895, the cost of a bicycle was roughly $110, a lot of money, but it took less care than a horse. So, bottom left, you'll see $5 off on a piano from the Island City Music Store in Brockville, Ontario. And on the bottom right, this was good for $5 on a Bell piano. Bell, the William Bell Company, was headquartered in Guelph, Ontario, but they had a large store in Ottawa as well. Here you see a token at the top left that was good for a meal. These were generally blue plate specials, so it was a set meal. And this could be given for a lot of reasons. It could be if you went to this particular hotel or restaurant often, this would be given out as a promotional thing to get you to come back. The top right side is a druggist and stationer, good for 4 cents. And the bottom one here is a more modern day token from the 1970s, Pat Shaw Studios of Dancing. This token was good for 2 free dance lessons. I just missed that one. Here we have one shave. Now, what happened back in the 1900s, early 1900s, is a salesman would take all of his samples of goods. Say he was coming from Toronto, as a for instance, he would get on the train, take the train to Owen Sound or Port Elgin. He would stay in a hotel there while he sorted out all the things that he had to offer to various merchants that were running stores in those towns. When he stayed at the hotel, if he often stayed at the same place, part of his room fee, he would get a token for a shave or for a haircut. And it was part of the deal of having him stay there. The barber was often right on site. Shaved in those days, or a haircut, was generally the equivalent of 25 cents. The top left and the top tokens are from a barber that was in Owen Sound for a long time, Sam Ancorn, and his son Fred Ancorn took over and was also the barber in Owen Sound till about 1975. At the bottom, at Smith's, Port Elgin. In Port Elgin, anyone familiar with it, there is an Evie's barbershop there now, EBY, and that is in the same location as Smith's was in 1900. This is my favorite token. These are advertising tokens. They weren't necessarily good for anything other than advertising the place. In this case, Wilkinson's Shoe Shop in Windsor, Ontario. And their slogan was Wilkinson Shoes, wear like a pig's nose. The inference being that they will last for a long time. Other examples of advertising tokens are a rampant lion for a tobacconist, Jeremiah Gibbs, who was also a coin collector. W.J. Bell was a hardware merchant in Beaton. E.C. Featherstone, his name was Emerson Centennial Featherstone. He was born in 1876, so his parents decided to give him the middle name of Centennial. He had a photo studio in Milton. A lot of photographers had a tough time making a living in those days because people were unsure about photography, and it was also fairly costly. So they generally put photo studios in the back of drugstores and stationery stores. In the middle, you see T. Bissell, who created different farm implements. And at the bottom, from my hometown, Sidney K. Lamb, who was a real estate agent, and he put out an advertising piece with his phone number and that on it. That's also from the 1970s. Here we have advertising tokens that would have a patriotic theme. In this particular case, the Boer War. You have clasped hands. First one is W.G. Watson, who was a tailor and lived in Hillsburg, Ontario. J.L. Flaherty was also a merchant tailor. He lived in Palmerston and then later in Owen Sound. And the Cranston Novel Company was the company that produced these tokens. They would put any advertising on the back that you wanted. And you see here new ideas in advertising. That was their example of what you could put on the back of yours. If you wanted the Dove of Peace, if you were a Boer War theme, they also did a Christmas token, which had a great big turkey on it. Bakery tokens. Bakery tokens were originally designed to give their customer a discount. A loaf of bread in about 1904 was 4 cents, but a loaf was considered something different in those days. They called it a loaf, but it was a pan. A pan virtually had 2 1-pound loaves in the pan. That was considered one loaf. If the baker broke that pan in half and gave you one of those, it was a half a loaf. It's a little confusing, but that's the terms that they used in those days. You'll see that the tokens are different sizes again, different shapes, and different metals. The copper one and the brass one were unusual because most of them used aluminum. They were light and very inexpensive. Dairy tokens, we go back. Also with bakery tokens, so what they would do is, say a loaf of bread was 4 cents, they would sell you, say 12 tokens for 40 cents. So in other words, you would end up getting 2 loaves of bread free. This way you would always go back to the same baker for your bread, and the baker for his part would get your money in advance and be able to use that money to purchase the flour he was going to use in future days to create his loaves of bread. It was a win-win situation all around. Generally, they are good for 1 loaf for half a loaf, and they gave the name of the baker and the town on the obverse side. Dairy tokens, same idea, initially to give the customer a discount. What also happened with dairy tokens is interesting because the dairies would come around to the farms in the very early days and bring the milk in pails and put it into any container that the farmer might have, your own personal glass or metal container. In later years, starting in about the 1940s, we had milk delivery door to door. So your housewife, your dutiful housewife, would clean out the bottle and put it outside on the front step with the change in the bottom of the bottle. Problem was, in the winter, the change would freeze to the bottom of the bottle. Many milkmen broke the bottles trying to get the money out. So what they started to do is created tokens of various sizes. You'll see the WT peg token at the top right. If you took that token, you could sit it right in the top of the milk bottle, and it would sit right in the lip where there used to be a cardboard closure on top. The same with the bigger round one, good for 1 quart, W.J. Fenton. This was just an advantage. Some of the, you'll see the top left one, the Georgian Bay Creamery, was good for 5 cents with a bottle, because another problem is some of the neighborhood children might want to take that change and go and buy themselves an ice cream. Whereas in this particular case, you could get your 5 cents back for your bottle, but you would also need the token to go with it. You had to have both pieces or you didn't get your money. These tokens, this is my last slide to show you tokens that were used. We call these bullheads tokens. They have the little ears, look a bit like if you were looking at a cow or a bull face on. The colors generally meant, red was usually homogenized, in this case pasteurized milk, and the blue was a non-fat, or nowadays we think of blue as 2%. Those 2 ears that you see on the left and right, again, would drop into the bottle and fit very nicely. Now, the great thing with this was the milkman could pull up in front of your house, look up at your front door, and see what color token was there and know what bottles of milk to bring. Bottles were pretty heavy, and so it was kind of nice to be able to take just what was wanted, take the tokens, and bring the empties back with them. That's pretty much a very brief history on the use of tokens. There's a lot of stories behind these pieces and the reason why they were created. And I would be more than happy now or later to answer any questions.
Okay, I think we'll swing back to Sarah. She wanted to talk a little bit about her role with the Youth Ambassador program. So way you go, Sarah.
Are you able to hear me?
Yep.
Alrighty, so sorry, my computer froze. So I'm Sarah. I'm the youth ambassador. For me, I started collecting coins basically the day I was born. Um, I was given coins for my birthday, special occasions. My dad used to throw Canadian silver dollars down the bottom of our pool, so I'd learn how to swim, like down to the bottom, because I used to be scared. So that's what started for me. I then continued on with anything that had a cool design, funky shape, different colors. And I remember before the youth table was as popular or was at so many shows. So I used to dig through buckets and anything there was. Now that there's the booth, which is wonderful for anyone under the age of 18, um, I started going to those. I got really interested in the coins. I was able to talk with Cassidy or Lisa McPherson, who used to run the table as well. And uh, I bought whatever coins I liked or was interested in. And as I got older, I started to help take care of the table. So I'd be the person selling you the coins and setting up for auctions. I got interested into ancient coins. So that was an interest of mine. I still continue with funky designs as I've got coins with dinosaurs on them that are glow in the dark. So that was how I started. I helped set up tables. I set up for auctions, which the auctions are like they're so much fun. Highly recommend it to anyone who's going. They are my favorite parts. Another favorite part of mine is actually meeting the people and talking with them and learning everyone else how they're interested in so that you can understand each other. So it's kind of what I have to say is just coins. A lot of people don't really see it as much because it's coins, but
Okay,
it's way more
Sarah?
people.
Sarah? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you because
Yeah.
I really want to hear your story, but unfortunately your audio is cutting in and out and it's really, really hard to hear right now. But I love how you got interested in coin collecting. I love that story about diving to the bottom to get the coins, and I could just envision you as a kid like digging through all these jars and buckets of coins just to find the ones that appealed to you. So thank you for sharing that. I really, really appreciate it. So I think we'll move on now, and we'll just address any questions that have come in. So I have one here. So this is something I think that we can do just kind of around the table. Do you have any favorite or even better, least favorite coins or other currency? So maybe you can tell us your favorite and then your least favorite. And we can start with Cassidy. You're up in the top left corner. So Cassidy, if you wanted to share with us.
Sure. Thank you, Nancy. My favorite banknote actually is the 1935 $25 note, which is a very unusual denomination for a banknote, and it has King George and Queen Mary on it. So I just think that is such a beautiful note to look at. It's very expensive, so I'm saving up for that one. Other than that, I really love the $20 banknote from 1935, which has Queen Elizabeth on it when she was just a little princess. So those are my
That's
two
awesome.
favorites.
Jeremy says he's going to, Jeremy's our digital initiatives person here, and he's kind of working behind the scenes to make everybody pop on and off the screen. But he has an image of that George and Mary banknote that you were talking about. So he's just going to pop that up here for everybody to see. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Cassidy. Sarah, let's see if we can let's see if we can get your audio here. Do you have a favorite or least favorite?
I don't have a least favorite. My coin, but actually, it's from the previous second, but it's like it's from diamonds in the
Yeah.
American dinosaur rather than the original dinosaur that was
Okay.
there for.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. Do you know what, Sarah? What I'm going to get you to do is I'm going to get you just to type into our conversation here, and you can tell me what your favorite and your least favorite is, and then I'll just read it out. Does that sound okay? Okay, good. Awesome. Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
we seem to still be getting a lot of distortion from Sarah, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, which is too bad because I would love to hear what she's saying. I could kind of catch some of it, but it's not completely coming through. So yeah, if you just want to share in the chat, and then I'll just read it out. We can do it that way. Sean, did you want to share what your most and least favorite were?
Well, I have several favorites, I suppose. One of my favorites was included in the PowerPoint, the U.S. Walking Liberty $50. I think that's a beautiful coin, as well as the British £2 coin that was introduced in 1997. The design is three rings with the central circle, and essentially represents a history of the UK from Celtic times up to the modern age. And I think it's really interesting that they tried to give almost a history of Britain in a little coin. I mean, in leaps and bounds, but nevertheless. Least favorite, boy, I've never really thought about which one I really don't like, but I think it's time for the US to update most of their current designs. A lot of them are rather bland, but aside from that, I'm not really sure.
Thanks. I feel like it's like asking what your least favorite child is. You love this stuff so much that it's hard to pick one that you're like, I'm not so keen on that. And Scott, what about you? Would you like to unmute and let us know what your favorite and least favorite are?
Well, the first thing I wanted to say was Sarah was saying about, being able to dig in bags of coins when she was young and even now. And you know what? That doesn't go away. I still love digging into bags. It's like Christmas every day, when you can do that. My most favorite coins, using the term coins, I really predominantly like tokens and metals, but any metal that signifies maybe an exhibition or an event where it's been personalized and awarded to somebody, especially 100 years ago. That's always of a lot of interest to me because that small piece of metal can now open a door to somebody's life that may have been forgotten. And the only thing left behind at the moment is this. My least, there's no such thing. There is no such thing as I like every coin, no matter what it is. Even the really beat up, ugly ones, they all have a story to tell. So I like them all.
Yeah, I love how you take that passion and you're turning it into like almost like a history treasure hunt, like looking for the story behind the coin and how it came to be and who may have owned it. So Sarah has said that she likes Prehistoric Creatures set, which is glow in the dark. I kind of like want you to turn out the lights and show us, but I'm just kidding. It says when it glows in the dark, you see the skeleton of the dinosaur. That is amazing. This I'm gonna have to research this. Awesome. So you were talking about coins from other places. So the O.N.A, I guess when I was thinking about it and reading about it and everything, I just kind of was assuming that it was more focused on like Canadian currency. So I didn't realize that you branch out and you investigate and look at and find information from other types of currency as well. So I just wanted to know if you had any thoughts on different kinds of currency and maybe particular kinds of currency that are particular favorites to look into and investigate. And I'm not sure who to throw this one to. Maybe we'll just throw this one to Sean.
Okay. Well, actually, one thing I would like to clarify before I forget is Cassidy mentioned the RCNA earlier, but the RCNA is our national numismatic organization, and it's called Royal Canadian Numismatic Organization. That's just in case people didn't understand what the acronym means. But anyway, sorry, what were we saying, Nancy? My apologies.
No worries. Just looking at currencies from other places around the world. Like I know you had showed us some
Right.
pictures, and if there's a certain affinity to a certain particular country's currency that you find is more striking than others, perhaps.
Well, myself, I like the. I collect a lot of the euro coins. It's a relatively new currency. They were first released into circulation in 2002, and it's a bit unusual because one side of the coins has a standard design, if you like, which just shows the denomination, but the other side, each country still maintains their own designs. So you have French designs, you have German designs, Spain, Italy, all of them. And the interesting thing is that they're all interchangeable. Even though this may be a French design, it's still good in Germany. But that's only with the circulating designs. The things get complicated when you're talking about other coins that they're allowed to make, because then they're only legal tender in the country of origin. So, but aside from that, well, as I was saying during the slideshow, I really like that Wealth and Pride series from Peru. And Olympic coins in general, just more the Winter Olympics. I'm not a big fan of the Summer Olympics, but the Winter Olympics I really like, so I try to focus on those. Anyway.
Yes, that Peru series was really quite striking. I'm amazed by the intricacy that and the detail that can be minted into a coin. It's quite amazing. Like the one with Flanders Fields, and it had the poem in the background.
Oh yeah,
that's just amazing to me that they can do that. I had a question about tokens. So you were talking about tokens, being a currency for small businesses, as part of their barter system and that. Now, where would they have manufactured those?
Well,
Maybe Scott, this is a good question for you.
yeah, in Canada, there were about 5 major manufacturers of those. The most well-known ones were Pritchard and Anders Company in Ottawa, Hamilton Stamp and Stencil in Hamilton, out in Sombra, they had a company out there, the Thistle Rubber Type Company. These were people that predominantly made tool checks, business letterheads, the kind of stationary stuff. They would make rubber stamps, and then it was not much of a leap to go from there to make metallic tokens, especially in aluminum. Another thing with that for the merchant is the fact that they could get these things made. You got to think about costs, and it's going to sound not that much, but for $10, you could get the dies made for each side of the coin, and approximately 100 tokens of each denomination. Now, and that'd be for $10. $10 was a lot of money. But if you added up the amount of money those tokens represented, put it this way, the merchants didn't mind if you lost them. Because much like what our government does now, they put the money out there, take their seigniorage, but if you lose it or it gets burnt up in your house or whatever, or you collect it and put it away forever, they don't have to actually come good for it. Same with the merchant. So they were very willing to do it for that amount of money. So there were a lot of places that would make them. There were a few in the States as well. It wasn't hard to find a place that could make it for you.
Cool. Thank you very much. Sarah, I'm going to throw a question at you so that you can type an answer in for me. And then I'll move on to another one until I get your reply back. So I wanted to know what you appreciate most about belonging to like what sort of support that you've enjoyed, or just what aspect of being part of the O.N.A you enjoy the most. Okay. And then Cassidy, I wanted to ask you also about kind of moving forward. Like, I know you were talking about having the youth table set up and you would be at like shows and that sort of thing. So now that we're kind of like moving forward and coming out of the pandemic, kind of what's the next steps for O.N.A there?
I think shows will probably start up again either in the fall, through the winter, in the spring. We'll start to see things opening up again. At that point, I'll be resuming with the youth booth table and the auctions. Right now, we've been doing a lot of virtual things with the youth. So we've been doing an activity kit where we've done a lot of things through the mail. So we would have questionnaires and send out, I would mail out coins to people who had signed up, and then they would answer some questions, and then there were prizes at the end. So moving forward, I think we're going to resume back to the in-person types of auctions and the youth table, but I'm certainly looking for ideas to expand because Ontario is a very big province. And I think it would be, most of the shows that we have are in Southern Ontario. So what I'd like to see are some other ideas and more volunteers, of course, so that we can expand the program province-wide all the way up north and everything. So I think that's where we're going to be moving, in that direction, looking for a lot more ideas and using our newsletter as well. So our newsletter is going to start to have more involvement with younger people so that they can participate more and have some incentives to contribute writing. We have a writing program that's just starting where people under 18 can submit a column or an article or just their experience of what they like to collect. And then we'll be rewarding them in certain fashions as well. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Always looking for new ideas. So if someone has some, please get in touch with us.
Oh, that's fantastic. I know I was talking with Sean earlier when we spoke one of the first few times. He said there used to be a Grey Bruce chapter, but it kind of went by the wayside. So it would be great if somebody like listening and watching today kind of wanted to get involved and maybe start up a Grey Bruce chapter again. That would be amazing. So let me see if I have anything else here. Got one coming in. Okay, it says another program at Bruce County Library is geocaching. So we do have some geocaching kits with the old handheld devices. There's a cool crossover between numismatics and geocaching in the form of geocoins. This I don't know anything about. These are coin-like metals that can be collected or can be moved around from one geocache to another. Each geocoin has a unique tracking code on it, so you can follow its journey around the world. Does anybody have a response to geocoins? And then we have to get back to Sarah's answer too.
I have a feeling I know who sent that one in, but I honestly know very little about geocaching other than when the handful of times that I went out with a couple of friends to do it. Essentially, you're going around to looking for places that people have more or less hidden things in the area, and you need to find them. And occasionally they include some of the people that create these caches also have their own coins or medals made that are included in there. And if you find that, you basically can keep it. Aside from that, I really don't know enough about it. My apologies.
No, it's fine. Could be a whole new thing. let's see here. And Sarah was kind enough to answer back here to our question. Sarah said that she really appreciates seeing the people and being part of a community and learning new things. And she has more resources being a part of the O.N.A to learn things that she wouldn't have before. So that's a wonderful answer, Sarah. Thank you so much for contributing that. And I'm, I think it's awesome that that you found a group that supports your passion, and that that they've taken you in, and you're their youth ambassador, and I think that's such a fabulous thing. So congrats on that. I think that we are just about ready to wrap up here. So did anybody want to say anything else before we call it an afternoon?
Just to check out our website.
Mm-hmm.
So our website is www.the, and then there's a dash, ONA.ca. And check us out.
Yeah. And we have that up here on the screen too, so you can catch that on there. And yeah, definitely check out their website. There's some wonderful information on there.
And thank you for having us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sean,
Oh, yeah. Basically, if anyone is interested in learning more about the organization or just coin collecting in general, they're welcome to contact any of the executive, and we are all listed on the website in one fashion or another. So
perfect, wonderful. Okay, so we'll just wrap up here. We'll just let people know that the library source for information about coins as well. We have the Charlton coin guides in our collection and Coins of Canada publications. So have a look in our catalog or talk to a staff member if you want to learn more about collecting, and we can get some materials in for you as well. And we'd like to extend our gratitude to our panel today for sharing your information, expertise, and passion. I know I learned a lot. And we invite you to explore the O.N.A website. And again, that's on the screen. Thank you to our digital services coordinator for looking after all our technical details today. The more people we have on the screen and more presentations that are happening, the trickier it is. So him and our other coworker, our communications coordinator, did a great job of setting all that up and getting everybody on and off the screen and sounding okay and all that. So thank you very much for that. So one last reminder to arrange for your library card today with your Bruce County Public Library branch, and to share your thoughts about this program by filling in the link to our evaluation. And lastly, to subscribe to our Bruce County Public Library on YouTube, where you can find more live and recorded presentations, stories for children, activities you can do at home, and keep an eye on our social media as we gear up for our summer reading program for kids, teens, and adults. Lots of prizes are available, so just by signing up and tracking your reading. So sign up using our Beanstack app or through our website today, and get started tracking that reading and get your summer reading going. So, and thank you once again to Sean, Cassidy, Sarah, and Scott and to you today for tuning in. Have a great day, everyone.